Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are reacting to the Golden Globe Awards. And as I'm recording this right now, they are just starting with Nikki Glazer's monologue. So I figured I would use this as the opportunity to kind of just give a little spiel about what I'm planning on doing here. I'm only going to be reacting to the film awards. It's not to say that I'm not interested in the TV awards, it's just that I'm not really caught up with the TV awards. I don't know super well, so I didn't make any predictions, so I don't think I could give a good reaction to those. I'll pay attention to them and I'll watch them because I am interested. It's not going to be part of this reaction video. This is just going to be the film awards. And for each category, when I'm reacting, as soon as the category pops up, I'm going to put my predictions down at the bottom of the screen. And my predictions, they're going to go from pretty much my predicted winner is in the first slot, and then it goes from most to least likely that I'm expecting them to win. So if we see anything kind of in the back three, then we'll know that that's kind of a big surprise for me. I don't know what to expect with the Globes. You never know what to expect every single year because it's kind of the first of the televised, like, precursor awards. And so it's something in our heads. We can be spinning these stories all winter long and saying that this is the direction things are going and this is who's supposed to win and this, and then all of a sudden the Globes will come up and just completely give you something random. So don't exactly know what to expect. So my predictions, I feel like I kind of went safe. There's a couple maybe that I went a little out there and made kind of a weird pick, but for the most part, don't really know what to expect. So I'm really just excited to get into these reactions. All right, looks like we've got our first award here. It's Best Female Supporting Actor Motion Picture. This is kind of the toss-up between Ariana Grande and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. I believe, correct me down below. I think I'm leaning toward Ariana Grande for the Oscar, but I'm going with Zoe Saldana here for Emilia Perez. I think this is one of the spots where I think Emilia Perez is going to win a ton. And it is Zoe Saldana. Okay, so there's the first category down. Not necessarily a huge shock. It really kind of did feel like it was one of two. I do think this year, at least I hope. I kind of get bored every year when it's a sweeper. I'm fine if there's a sweeper in a category that's like it's a wide open, or it's not really a wide open category like it is. There's one dominant performance. Whether that be Robert Downey Jr. last year, but I just don't like it like when it was like 2020 Oscars where it was all four acting awards were just sweepers the entire way. Not the biggest fan of that, so I'm happy. Zoe Saldana, I didn't love Emilia Perez, but Zoe Saldana is good in the film. I do think it's still more likely Ariana Grande probably for the Oscar, but I'm glad that we're getting Zoe Saldana here, and honestly, if she does sweep, it's not a big. I'm not too stressed about this category. It looks like now we're doing the male supporting actor, and this is one where I think this is just going to be a Kieran Culkin sweep. I don't imagine anyone else really. I guess the only other person would be. I'm seeing they're announcing him, maybe Edward Norton, but I think Guy Pearce right here for The Brutalist. I think he's the one that maybe has a chance at the Oscars if The Brutalist can kind of make that big push. I still have yet to see it, so I'm slow predicting The Brutalist, but I think it's going to be Kieran Culkin. Yep, so Kieran Culkin with the Globe. So, yeah, I think this is one that, out of all four, I was kind of like talking about this in the last category for supporting actress, that I think this year, I think all of the acting categories are pretty kind of up in the air. They're all up for grabs, at least in most categories. I think you can look at them and confidently kind of say that they're two horse races. This is the one where, again, I think Kieran Culkin, so far, he's in the lead, like has the lead, and he's running away with it, and it looks like he might be the runaway and just kind of win at every single award show along the way. Again, I am holding out a little bit of reservation for Guy Pearce in the future. It's one of those that once I finally get to see The Brutalist, I can give a little bit more context, or I can kind of make a little bit more of an emphatic statement of whether that's who I would vote for in this category. But for now, I'm happy with Kieran Culkin. He was great in A Real Pain. All right, after a break where it was just a lot of TV nominations in a row, looks like we're back with the film nominations, and it looks like this is Best Screenplay. And this is one of those just crazy categories. I think it's a three-horse race. I think I'm predicting the Brutalist, and then Honora. I think is like kind of those are the two that are in the toss-up. But I have a sneaking suspicion about Amelia Perez, just because it is the most nominated and because it's going to win so many awards. I think that there's a shot that it's kind of a sneaky dark horse here. But I mean, all in all, this is when you combine the adapted and the original, it just makes for such a tough category. Because like, I love The Substance, that would be my favorite. A Real Pain, that is kind of like the highlight of the screenplay, and then of course, can't forget Conclave, that's in here as well. So I mean, honestly, it's just any of these would be great winners, but I think it's going to be either the Brutalist or Nora, sneaky Amelia Perez in the background as well. And the Globe did Conclave? Is that what I just heard? They, oh, they Conclave. Okay, that's crazy. I don't even I did my predictions last night, so I don't even like remember where I have Conclave lined up here, but it definitely wasn't in the top 3. I was not expecting Conclave at all. That's crazy. So now I have to think about. I mean, I haven't even really thought about like the what I'm predicting to get nominations at the Oscars. Obviously, I was predicting Conclave to get nominated, but I've barely even thought about that, let alone what I think is going to win. So I don't know. I'd have to really think about Conclave. It's inadapted, so I'd have to think. Is that going to boot? Is this? I don't know what the correlation is between screenplays at the Globes. I mean, it doesn't hurt to win any sort of award, so I think that's a good thing for Conclave. That's just that was so far. That had to have been. It definitely was my bottom 3 of like predicting. That might have been the one I thought had the least amount of chance of winning. That's crazy, and that's a great win for. Because I mean, like obviously, The Substance is my favorite film in that category, but and I haven't seen The Brutalist, but as of right now, Conclave is my second favorite film in that category. So I'm excited. That's an awesome win for Conclave, a film that I was kind of had a sneaking suspicion, was a little afraid that might kind of get goose egg tonight. So that's great that it was able to get a win there in screenplay. All right, and then it looks like we're back with Best Motion Picture Non-English Language Film, and this is one of the most locked awards of the night. It's probably the most locked award of the season. I've heard great things about All We Imagine Is Light. But it's going to be Amelia Perez. The film that leads all total nominations is nominated here. It's going to be Amelia Perez. And the Globe, yep, Amelia Perez. So yeah, this is the most locked. I think throughout all of awards season, it's going to take something crazy for some other film to, because this is one of those. I think there's some years where maybe 2 international films, like you might have like Drive My Car and The Worst Person in the World, where you have, or last year, you had Anatomy of a Fall, as well as The Zone of Interest. Like you might have 2 international films kind of competing together in Best Picture, but there's usually one that's kind of ahead. This is one of those years where Amelia Perez is already so far ahead in this race that even if like something else kind of comes, this is like the year of Drive My Car. It was so far ahead that even when The Worst Person in the World kind of started creeping in there toward the end of the Oscars, it didn't matter. The lead was already so big, and that's exactly what this is for Amelia Perez. Looks like we're getting into a lot of the top acting awards here. So this one we've got female actor in a musical or comedy, and this is one I think is pretty comfortably Mikey Madison. Carla Sofia Gascon, maybe because of Amelia Perez, the love it's getting. I think it's maybe Cynthia Erivo, but I don't know. I think it's pretty comfortably going to be Mikey Madison, unless the Globes kind of does the thing where the Globes does, where they reward kind of the um, longer tenured actress, and maybe it's Demi Moore. But let's see. It is Demi Moore over Mikey Madison. Oh my goodness. Okay, the substance definitely. I know that the globes don't really have kind of the same sway, the same kind of the same body as some of the other, like the. I mean, pretty much the rest of all the precursors, and then once you get to the Oscars, I don't think there's like hardly any overlap. But what this does show is it does show that the industry, just at a large, does like the substance. I think that's something that a lot of people didn't know if the substance is kind of a genre film is something that this would be a big player in this award season, me included. I remember when I first watched it, I loved it, and it shot up, and it was one of my favorite movies of the year. But I didn't when I was watching it, I didn't think this is going to the Oscars. This is going to win awards. I thought Demi Moore was incredible, but like I instantly put her in the category of like a Toni Collette in Hereditary, a performance that's so brilliant and it's so amazing in a horror film that just isn't going to get recognized. It was the way that it was the instant like kind of the basket I put her in, but that is incredible. Demi Moore. I know there's a lot of people that because Mikey Madison has kind of just been the front runner for everyone. Everyone has always just kind of said she's the front runner. I don't know if the Globes does enough to kind of change that, but I know there was a lot of kind of the I don't want to say front runner fatigue, but there was just kind of a lot of discussion about Mikey Madison as a front runner and whether there was any justification to it or whether that was actually real or if that was just something that we were all kind of spinning in our heads. So this is going to be interesting to see as we go from this to, we've got the Critics' Choice, I think, next Sunday, and then going to get into the nominations for BAFTA and SAG, and we'll just have to see as we keep going throughout the precursor season if Mikey Madison if she's kind of maybe how we all viewed Kristen Stewart and Spencer, where we are like, yeah, she's the front runner, and then it just never quite materialized. I wonder if that's kind of the same path we might be going down for Mikey Madison. I don't think so. But I will say that in terms of as far as the Golden Globes goes, in terms of at least the rest of this ceremony, I picked Honora to win comedy musical. I 100% this is I'm not going to actually switch it because I already had the screenshots of my graphics. I picked it, but I'm switching to Amelia Perez. It is going to win over Honora at this point. I guess unless maybe the substance, maybe I should be putting more stock into the substance as a big contender. But this is phenomenal. I've muted the speeches, and I can see Demi Moore is looks like it's a very passionate and great speech that she's been giving. So I'm excited to after this go back and watch these speeches. But that is a huge win, and I would love if Demi Moore just kind of ran the table if she actually was the thing that materialized at the Oscars. And then immediately following that, we've got male actor motion picture comedy or musical comedy. I think Jesse Eisenberg is the front runner here. I did go with kind of the underdog in Hugh Grant. I don't think he's really much of an underdog. I know a lot of people were kind of predicting him. Glenn Powell is also, I think, kind of up there with Jesse Eisenberg. But this is one of those where everyone here in this category doesn't have a great shot at getting an Oscar nomination outside of Hugh Grant, so that's why I went with him. But let's see. Sebastian Stan in A Different Man. Okay, this is I think the fun of the first being the first like award show, the Golden Globes, because we all just kind of have these ideas of what the frontrunners or who's doing what, like who's gonna win, like in our heads, and then all of a sudden you come here and all of a sudden it's chaos. But also in this specific category where like I was just saying, I think Hugh Grant is the only one of these six that was like somewhat close to getting an Oscar nomination, so that's why I think a lot of people were going with him. So to see Sebastian Stan pull this off is incredible. I still haven't seen A Different Man. I know it is like streaming. I know I can rent it. I don't know if it's like on a. It might be on one of the streaming sites that I can like watch through Amazon. Prime Video. I'll have to like double check because I want to see it. It's one that I was interested in, but it was only in theaters for like a weekend, and I don't think it ever really played around me, so I just didn't get the chance to see it. But I mean, if both the actors I believe have been getting nominations in different various award shows and bodies, and if Sebastian Stan's now winning awards for this performance, I really have to make sure that I check out A Different Man at some point. But this is exciting. I don't think that this necessarily means anything towards the Oscars or anything, but I will say that the fifth spot is kind of maybe a little vulnerable. Don't know if it's going to be Daniel Craig, if it's going to be Hugh Grant, if it is Jesse Eisenberg. I guess now we have to maybe consider Sebastian Stan a little bit stronger or a little more seriously, I guess, in that. But yeah, this is great. I think Sebastian Stan, I had him fifth or sixth in my odds, probably fifth. I think I had him ahead of Gabriel Labelle, but That's that's a back-to-back shockers on the musical comedy category actors. And then we've got another next category here is animated feature. This is one where it feels like it's a sweep for the Wild Robot, right? Like I don't think there's anything necessarily that's going to be, a big contender. I guess Flow, I will say I haven't seen Flow. I've heard great things about it, so maybe that is the one to kind of keep your eye on out in the future, but for me it kind of just feels like this is the Wild Robot. Flow. Oh my. Okay, so what we're learning, the lesson that we're learning tonight is everything we thought that was like a lock isn't a lock, which is honestly is exciting as someone that I'll admit hasn't been super excited about this year's award race. These films, there's only a couple here and there that I love. There's a lot that I like, but there's only a couple that I'm like passionate about. So if this is the case, if it's something that I'm not like overly passionate about all of these films, then I'm totally down for some chaos. I'm totally cool with some things kind of getting shaken up and just totally different than what we were expecting. I wonder if this is the start of, last year where we all just thought that Across the Spider, I guess I don't want to say everyone. I'm sure there were some people that always believed in, Studio Ghibli, but where we all thought that, Across the Spider-Verse was going to be this big sweeper, and then that's when like The Boy and the Heron started kind of winning a couple of these. I wonder if this is the same thing where we're so overconfident in the Wild Robot, and now it's going to turn out that Flow is kind of a neck and neck, competitor. Flow is another one. I was going to see it. I was mad a couple weeks ago. I was going to go see it. It was in a couple theaters near me, and it was just on all the days that I could make it to the theater. It was always they didn't have a showtime that worked for me, so I wasn't able to see Flow. I don't know if it's on streaming yet. I'll have to check because that's another one that if we've got a serious competitor here on our hands with with Flow and with the Wild Robot, then got to make sure I'm getting on both of these. And it looks like Michael Keaton just came on stage. I think I saw the background. I think it said director. Are we already moving on to? Yeah, it looks like in the background I'm seeing director, motion picture. So I'm just gonna keep it right here. We're gonna go one big unedited cut here. This is another one where I went with Brady Corbet. I'm I hear it like multiple times. I need to figure out how I'm pronouncing these. I think it's Brady Corbet. That's where I went. I had Sean Baker second, but I think it's more likely Jacques Audiard is more likely than Sean Baker at this point. But I still think I'm leaning Brady Corbet, unless Coralie Fargette, if the substance, if it is about to have a big moment, this is where it's going to be. Um, but yeah, I'm going with Brady Corbet. It is Brady Corbet. Okay, it feels like almost like a sigh of relief to just go back and be like, okay, one category went the way that we thought it was going to go. Um, all I can really say about this is I am just so excited to see the Brutalist. I really wish it would be wide enough now. I need to look and see. I think it's like mid-January when it's finally going to be somewhere around me where I can actually go and see it, because this is by far my most anticipated. Like, this is what I've been waiting for to see, and I'm also excited to go back and um, is it Vox Lux? Is that what it's called? Was his previous film? I've heard the name. I don't know anything about that. And I barely know a whole lot about The Brutalist. Like, I just don't really know anything either. So, two films of his that I'm excited to give a shot to. Looks like we've got original score, and this is one. This is a complete toss-up. I think The Brutalist is the favorite, or Conclave. Uh, but again, I haven't. I'm not sure. I haven't heard the Brutalist score yet. I just went with challengers. This was the category. Amelia Perez as well, obviously, could have be a strong player here. But this is one where I went with challengers because I thought this would be the category of all the Globes categories. This is where they could kind of do the Globes thing and do something kind of crazy. But we've already had so many crazy things earlier that honestly, maybe it is Hans Zimmer for his Dune is probably the safe choice, even though it's not eligible for the Oscar. But let's see. Was that Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross? That is Challengers. Oh, I can't believe it. Of all of the predictions I made, that is the one I'm the most surprised that I got right by predicting Challengers. Um, I mean, honestly, Challengers is a great score. I know it's I think I'm trying to remember it just missed the BAFTA long list, right? Like it's not even eligible there. So I think a lot of people were starting to kind of think it was going to take a hit and not get nominated at the Oscars. I don't know. Challengers is one of my favorite movies of the year, and it's crazy to me that it's. I think it's just because it was released so early in the year. It's kind of suffering from that and not getting the recognition that it deserves. But yeah, I'm starting to think. I think Score might be kind of the one nomination that it gets, but that's great that to get the win here. Anytime there's a score as memorable as like Challengers, even if it isn't necessarily the Oscar frontrunner, it's still great to see it get the appreciation along the way. It's the same with The Batman from a couple years ago. Like that was undoubtedly the best score that year, and it kind of got some recognition here and there. Like maybe the Critics' Choice Awards, I think, kind of gave it some love, but it ultimately just didn't even get nominated at the Oscars. And so it's always kind of sad whenever there's like the definitive, like clearly like the best score of the year, and it's just not getting the appreciation it deserves. So I'm glad Challengers got some love here. So it looks like we've got original song is due up next, and this is one of the craziest like years for original song. It just doesn't feel like any of these. This is what year was it? There was a year a couple years ago where it was just like none of them were great, and it was one of those that's just like because there's usually one that's like on the radio or is like this big beloved like we don't talk about Bruno, even though that didn't actually end up even being the nominee that year, right? But every year there's always kind of like the one clear front runner. Whenever you get like a year like this where there isn't really a front runner, I think it's a lot of fun, and you can get like when her I'm drawing a blank on the name from Judas and the Black Messiah that the song won that year. Stand Up. I don't remember what the name of that song was, but it's fun whenever you kind of have a toss up category. This feels like a toss up category only mainly because there's two Amelia Perez songs that feel like they're the frontrunners, and so I think that also adds to the whole idea of it being a toss up. I think for me, El Mal is the one that I prefer, and I think it's maybe kind of become the front runner. I went with El Camino is the one that I ended up. It's impossible to tell with the two images down there, but I did go with El Camino over El Mal because that is the one that is Selena Gomez singing that one, and so I thought maybe even El Mal maybe has more of the momentum going toward the Oscar maybe, but I still just think like maybe here at the Golden Globes it's just an opportunity to award Selena Gomez. They might take advantage of that. The winner is. I heard Amelia Perez. Did she say El Mal? Yep, I can hear El Mal playing in the background. So yeah, El Mal. So that's. I mean, it's again. I'm not the biggest fan of Amelia Perez. El Mal is the song from that though that is completely stuck in my head. Like that is the one to me that is like I've listened to it multiple times. Like I'm driving and I'll just look up the song and listen to it because that is the one thing from the movie for me that really was like a standout was because even there's like multiple other musical numbers like El Camino or Mi Camino in this as well where it's just it was I remember listening to it and thinking it was fine in the movie but like at no point did I ever have any kind of like it didn't stick with me. It didn't. I like. I don't remember it until like last night. I went back and listened to it before making my predictions. But El Mal really is the one. Aside from like the acting standouts in the film, El Mal, the song and that whole musical number, that moment in the film is like one of the things that stands out to me. So, of all the things that we can award Amelia Perez, this is one that I'm cool with it winning. And then I believe I heard earlier that Vin Diesel was coming on to announce the box office achievement award. This absolutely at this point feels for like 100% like it's Wicked's award. It felt like it coming in, but with Ariana Grande losing to Zoe Saldana in supporting actress, I think at this point like I think the Globes want to award, especially with all of the references and the jokes and things that they've times that they've talked about Wicked. I think they want to give Wicked an award somewhere, and honestly, this is your last chance, really. I guess at this point. So, I would be this would maybe be like the second biggest shock of the night after if Amelia Perez not winning international or non-English language. This would be like the second biggest shock for me if Wicked doesn't win the box office award. Wicked. Okay. I mean, that was again. That's it felt like as much of a lock as you could have. I feel like this award, as long as they keep this around moving forward, which I'm sure they will. I don't think the Oscars is ever gonna pick this up, but I'm sure a couple of these precursors along the ways they keep kind of putting this type of category into their ceremonies. Going forward, I think this is going to be one of the easier categories to predict because it's always just going to kind of be, maybe it's hard to predict what's going to get nominated because apparently there was kind of the a lot of people were the vocal disdain of Dune Part Two not being nominated, and then was like later that day we figured out that Dune Part Two, or like Warner Brothers, didn't submit it to be eligible. So I think there was only like there's 10 nominees, and it was like 13 or 14 films total that they had to choose from. So it's like maybe it's hard to predict what's going to actually get nominated, but once it gets nominated, it's going to be pretty easy, I think, to kind of pinpoint who the winner in this category is going to be every year, because it's kind of just whichever of I mean, it's you got to look at the highest grossing, and you got to look at a lot of Oscar nominations, and then find one that's not necessarily maybe winning, because that was kind of like Barbie last year was the highest grossing, and it wasn't the favorite in a whole lot of other categories, so it was kind of the one spot you could say like, okay, this is where we're awarding Barbie. I think it's the same thing here, where you got Wicked. It's not winning in a lot of its other categories, but you can look at it and be like, okay, here's our out. Here's how we can nominate or award Wicked. So I think this may be, even for the Globe standards going forward, this might be one of the easier categories to kind of tackle and see exactly where the voters are going. And then we are back with Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama. And this is kind of interesting, where I feel like we had a lot of kind of the main contenders for the Oscars. They were all in the musical comedy category. So this feels a little empty of a category in a sense. I think a lot of people are going with Angelina Jolie. I think has been kind of considered the front runner. I'm going with Nicole Kidman. Again, this is another one that I thought was maybe kind of like the out there, fun, wild pick, but based on how it's going so far at the Globes, I wouldn't be shocked if that is just kind of what happens. Is if we get Nicole Kidman, I'm also keeping my eye out for Kate Winslet or Pamela Anderson. It was Fernanda Torres. Um, I think that's interesting. I have not seen I'm Still Here, nor do I even really know a whole ton about it, other than I've heard Fernanda Torres, like I've heard her name a ton in this kind of in the awards race. I don't know much about it, so I was not really expecting Fernando Torres. I do think that's an exciting pick, and I do think it's possibly at this point might be the performance that's like the next closest. I think it's typically I'd have to think about it, but I think we kind of have one slot open in Best Actress, maybe two that are kind of still up in the air. So she's maybe one of the ones that has the next best shot at kind of getting in. It's Angelina Jolie is kind of the one that I think currently kind of has that like fifth slot, but I think signs aren't really great for Maria as a film, and even though Angelina Jolie is great in it, I just don't think that that's a film that a lot of people are caring to award slash win. So her not being able to pull through in this category really isn't a great sign for her. But yeah, for Fernanda Torres, that's big. That's another film. That's what I love about the early precursors. You don't necessarily take them too seriously. They don't mean a whole ton, but what it does for me is it gives me kind of a general idea of, okay, I need to pay attention to this. I need to pay attention to flow, or I need to go, find this. I need to find flow. I need to find a different man. So I kind of am now at this point where I know what the films I'm looking for that are getting awarded, and I need to kind of make sure I've seen them before Oscar nominations come out, so that way I can know for sure whether I need to predict them or not. But this is a fun award, and this is another one. Again, I have her speech muted, but I can tell she's really emotional, so I'm sure this is going to be a great speech to listen to as well. And then we're immediately following it up with Best Male Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, and to me, this is a two-horse race. This is at this point, it's a 50-50 toss-up between Timothée Chalamet and Adrien Brody. I predicted Timothée Chalamet. I wouldn't be. I mean, The Brutalist has an award already in the bag, so I wouldn't be shocked if they're kind of going with The Brutalist. If it's just kind of the one that's going to pick up a lot of the momentum here, but I still predicted Timothée Chalamet. But yeah, this is tough, and I'm honestly kind of leaning more toward Brody at this moment. But it's also or Ray Fiennes, because Conclave won Screenplay. Whoever wins this, or Sebastian Stan, see if he can be a double winner tonight. That would be exciting. Let's see who the winner is. Okay, so it goes to Adrien Brody. So that is, I think, the clear indication. Again, this is another one that I don't think I don't know. Maybe if Timothy Chalamet won tonight, I would say that there's no shot that this is like a sweep, that this would be like a 50-50 toss-up category. With Brody winning, I feel like maybe there's a shot that this is the first of like a sweep that's upcoming. I still think Timothy Chalamet is going to win one somewhere, like maybe the Critics' Choice might go Timothy Chalamet. I'm not sure at this point. If the Globes is going with Adrian Brody, this really might be just kind of a sweeper. My only hope is that I can see the Brutalist before the next kind of. I don't think I'll see it before Critics' Choice next week, but hopefully before the other SAG and BAFTA. Hopefully the Brutalist has a wide release so I can actually see this film and give more of an input of what I think of his performance. It looks like we've got motion picture drama is the first one up here. I believe I picked the Brutalist, and at this point, there's no real other contender. Conclave, because of the screenplay win, maybe. Is kind of the second place contender at this point, but this feels fairly locked up for the Brutalist for me. And the award goes to the Brutalist. Yep, I mean that's completely makes sense the way this night's gone. That was just interesting seeing the nominees there. I had the same reaction last night when I was like making my predictions. I forgot the Nickel Boys and September 5 were even nominated because I think those are their lone nominations tonight, right? Um, so yeah, those unfortunately didn't have much much of a chance. But yeah, this was just going to come down to the Brutalist and then Conclave, really. But I mean, anytime you get actor and director, it's kind of crazy looking back at it now that it didn't also get screenplay. But I think if you get the director actor combo, it's hard to not follow that up with picture as well. But this, I mean, for I think is a lot of the way Anora has been kind of heralded as the Oscar frontrunner. I think tonight a lot of people are going to switch their tune, and I think a lot of people kind of had Brutalist number two. I hadn't seen the Brutalist. I always kind of put it as my front runner just because I didn't know if Anora was really that was the film that was gonna be this big Oscar sweeper. And I'm not saying it's dead. Obviously, it still has a shot at the Oscars. But for me, the Brutalist, having not even seen it, it just that feels like a Best Picture winner, right? And so tonight is a great start for it. Actor, not screenplay, actor, director, and picture. It's just a great three pack over there. I'm trying to think of did it win anything else? I mean, it was nominated a couple of places like Score, but I don't think it won anything else. So, but still, that is a big three to win. And so now after this, just one more category remains. Then the final award for the night is Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. And this is, I predicted Anora was my prediction. I think it was the front runner. I was very worried about Amelia Perez. It's done. Amelia Perez is going to win this. There's no way. I mean, it won international, it won actress or supporting actress for Zoe Saldana. Sorry, I was just getting distracted by the they're doing the nominees here. But yeah, it's already won multiple awards. Anora has been shut out. It lost Mikey Madison. So I mean, the Substance is maybe kind of the second front runner here, maybe even Wicked. But I mean, it's going to be Amelia Perez, and it is Amelia Perez. So this is. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion now about Anora specifically getting shut out, losing Mikey Madison, losing. Some people thought that maybe it was still kind of a front runner and director. People thought it was. Some people thought it was maybe a layup in this category because I know a lot of people like I'm middle of the road on Amelia Perez. I know a lot of people passionately hate it, but clearly what we're seeing is that awards bodies and these critics groups they love it. The industry groups they love Amelia Perez, and so I think this is going to start an interesting discussion about what we think of Anora and what is Anora going forward. I don't know if I'm ready to kind of put the nail in the coffin on it. I don't think it's dead. I definitely think it's one of those where because we're just kind of going off of like local city critic groups and maybe they've been boosting up Anora here and there, and Sean Baker's been winning a lot of director prizes at these kind of city critic groups, and so I think that that's a reason why in our heads we just kind of put Anora there. I think what tonight shows is maybe not necessarily that it is dead, but just that it's not necessarily the front runner. It's not in the position that we thought it was in. So I think after tonight, I mean, obviously it's it's just the Golden Globes. I don't know in terms of the grand scheme of like the Oscars. I don't know exactly, what that necessarily means for that. But at least as of tonight, the vibe and the feeling that's going on right now is that you probably have the Brutalist as the kind of the big front runner, the sweeper threat right now. I think Amelia Perez is kind of in that number two slot. I think it's kind of the next film up that has its fans and it has its support in the movement that it has within the industry. I think Conclave winning, it only won that a screenplay award. It didn't win anything else, but that screenplay is enough. That's a big enough of award for me to say like, okay, I think Demi Moore. I don't know if the substance necessarily gained any big momentum, or if that was just Demi Moore that maybe has the momentum. Because at that moment, I did say that maybe the substance was about to start making some noise, and it ultimately didn't. So yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if that's just a film thing or if that is just a Demi Moore thing. But I mean, again, I think an important thing is maybe to not overreact to just the Globes, because I mean, this happens all the time. I think back to a couple years ago. It was the year that I'm trying to blank on her name. United States versus Billie Holiday, Andrea Day, when she won at the Globe. But that exact same year, she won. Nicole Kidman won for I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't Nicole Kidman. I thought it was her, but then Rosamund Pike won that year. Like there was just a whole bunch of different winners at that year's Golden Globes that just clearly didn't translate anywhere else. And so I do think that there is something important to remember to not like necessarily overcorrect or overreact to what happened here tonight at the Golden Globes, but also to maybe kind of pay attention to a couple things there, because I mean it's important not to overreact, but I think it is important to kind of take that into consideration. Honora getting shut out is kind of shocking, and so I do think that that is because it was a frontrunner, or not really a frontrunner, but a contender in so many categories. Getting shut out, I think that is important enough to kind of note, but don't overreact and say it's dead. I think it's just one of those things where it probably just wasn't the front runner like we all were picturing it or imagining it to be, but I think it still is in the race depending on how a couple of the next couple award shows go. Critics' Choice is, I think it's next Sunday. Critics' Choice is going to tell us a whole lot and kind of confirm some of those feelings or the ideas that we have. And that's it. Thank you for watching this video. As I'm recording this right now, it looks like they are doing. It's just like the closing credits. Oh, okay. They're doing a little montage. I was about to say it looked like Nikki Glaser was coming back out on stage, but yeah, it's just a montage here over the closing credits. So the Golden Globes are over. Let me know down below in the comments what the biggest shock was of this ceremony. Was there any predictions that you got right? Anything that you're just completely stunned by? For me, I mean, it was the Demi Moore, Sebastian Stan wins were probably the two biggest for me that were shocking. The Demi Moore by far was the most shocking win of the and Conclave, I guess, for screenplay. Those were my two biggest surprises. But yeah, but let me know down below in the comments what you think about these awards, and thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like the video and then subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with my awards content as the season rolls on and as we get into the rest of these precursors and then Oscar nominations in a couple weeks. So yeah, make sure you subscribe and don't miss any of those videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.